Okay, guys, now if you are the artistic type, this is your chance to shine. We're now ready to prepare your project for the assembly. So let me show you the pieces in it and talk a little bit about what you can see. It was very odd to us the first few times we built this because you can see a little more of it than you would expect to. I also want to tell you very carefully that we're building this battery compartment in the middle and you want to make sure you don't sand it. So let's walk through the pieces that you've got in your hand, talk about what you want to sand and what you want to finish. So the first thing is the face, and obviously you can see the face. So you want to make sure you sand this surface and decorate it as much as you want to. But you don't need to necessarily sand any of the interior parts at all. The next layer is this little ring here, this very, very thin layer ring that's going to sit around the board. It's completely hidden. There's a little teeny tiny bar of it right there that you might see. So you might want to make that dark, or you might want to make that match with the rest of your project, but it's going to be really hidden. And then there are these two pieces, and these two pieces will match exactly the edges. So again, if you're a completist and you feel like you must decorate them, make them dark or something. You're never ever going to see them, except maybe on the edges. Then you've got this piece. Now this piece is going to sit like this, or like this, and we're looking at it correctly. So you notice that you will actually see a little bit of wood there through the piece when you put it together. And the battery holder is right here, so you're actually going to see the inside of this section as well, because we're going to drop a battery in it. Don't sand the back of this, don't sand these pieces, don't sand the inside of that, but you definitely want to decorate it because you're going to see this. And you're going to see the top of the ears. Now what you may want to do before you decorate is watch the rest of the video and see how it assembles together. We're actually not going to we're not going to put glue in this at all. So you can take it apart as many times as you want to and put it back together as many times as you want to. So if you want to watch the rest of the video first, that's certainly fine. To see what parts and pieces you can see and not see as you decorate your parts. And again, the back you probably will want to do something with as well. So if you want to decorate it first, pause the video here. Now that you're ready to assemble, you're going to start by opening your screw bag and dumping it out. We'll get the chain that's in it out of the way first. You'll also notice that you have 7, count them, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 half-inch screws, 4 1-inch screws, and there should be in here 11 nuts, all ready to build and assemble your project. So we're going to take our faceplate, flip it over, and as we do this, we're going to put the 4 screws that align the world together in first. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, and lift those up, flip it over. And this is the final version. This where this battery plug goes is the top. So I'm going to put it that way. I'm going to put these 2 side pieces in. Make sure they align correctly when you do that, and if they don't, you can move them to the other side and make sure they line up on that side and line up with your holes properly. And then you can set your circuit playground in. The battery connector is going to go in this narrow section there. And we're going to take our ring and we're going to put it over the top. Make sure it aligns perfectly with those pieces as well. This is just going to give us a little bit of extra thickness to hide our screws in. And now we've got our board and we've got our screws, and this is at least lined up a little bit. So I'm just going to put a couple of them in temporarily to hold that alignment in place. Hold those extra pieces in place. When I lift it up, I'll lose 2 of the long screws, and that's fine. And then I'm going to flip this over, leaving the board in place, and I'm going to start with these 1/2" screws, and I'm just going to drop them through the hole. So that one says 1, so that's where 1 wants to go. This one says 4, that's where 4 wants to go, and I'm going to hold on to those 2 and flip it back over and get those 2 nuts started to make sure I don't lose my board in any of this. And what we're doing actually is we're at this point screwing the board to that face layer. Get that nut out of my way momentarily. And that's the important piece, is that we're screwing the board to the face and through those little teeth holes that we put in earlier. And when you screw these in, the trick is to get them tight enough so that we've got good contact between the screw and the nut and the board itself. The pads are big enough, you would think this would just be really easy and they would all be nice and solid. But what we've seen over time is this is the only place in this project that's a little bit wussy, and you have to be a little bit gentle with it. So make sure you get them in nice and tight enough so that the touch sensor part actually works and actually holds them in place, okay? And then you can go through that project with the rest of your screws. Everything should be lined up okay to do that without a problem. If I had a screwdriver, I'd use a screwdriver to tighten them down a little bit more. Don't break the board. You're enough at the side enough, you probably won't, but be a little bit gentle with it. But do make sure you've got good contact, because this is what's going to make those buttons at the top actually work. One of the fun things about this project is that we're not actually gluing it together. If you wanted to use a capacitive glue, you could, but it's probably not necessary, and it just makes a horrible mess. Okay, here's 1, hole 2, and hole 3. Just getting that to go through my hole. Put those last 2 nuts on there. And now my faceplate is attached. Once those screws go in. So I'm going to take these 2 nuts off the side. Put my other 2 1-inch screws back in and all the way through my project and set it down again. And now we're going to put the rest of the layers on. And at this point, it's really easy. Getting those 7 screws in and tightened and all aligned is the hard part. So now I can line this up, drop this in. I can add my 2 ear layers to this. 1 layer of ears, 2 layers of ears. And finally my back plate. Make sure you do use a screwdriver on this so you don't lose these screws unless you want to glue them on. You certainly can, but once you put glue on them, it's going to be harder to take apart to adjust and fix. If you tighten them in fairly good, you should not have a problem at all using it. You do that. And then you take your battery that's been perfectly happily charging away. And mine has completely charged in the time it's taken to make these videos. And you plug it in, and as you push the different buttons, you're going to go to the different animations and different colors you selected when you built your project. So I've got my different colors on here and my different animations on here just by picking the different colors. At that point, your battery can tuck happily into the little battery compartment down below. And you can take the chain and run the chain through the two big holes for the ears. And your wearable lab is now complete and ready to go.